Good morning or good afternoon or whenever the heck you're listening or watching this podcast. November the 7th, taping this at 11:18 in the morning. You're listening to the All 32 podcast, a proud member of the CLNS Media Network, and of course brought to you by the number one daily fantasy sports app in North America, PrizePicks, where it is good to be right. We're going to go through this solo episode today as we get ready for Patriots and Buccaneers, a four-quarter action for you, as always. And I wanted to start with something that we've talked about quite a bit in the last week or two, and it remains at the forefront of a lot of people's minds, and that is Drake Maye and protecting himself. Did you know that Cam Ward is the most sacked quarterback in the National Football League? But right behind him is one Drake Maye. Now, you look at Cam Ward's situation, you say, well, I get it. They don't have a lot there. Calvin Ridley never plays. Their offensive line's a mess. They fired their coach. Patriots, a lot more stability in year one of Mike Vrabel, and yet the numbers continue to creep up. 16 sacks over the last 3 weeks of Drake Maye. Now, not all sacks are, of course, created equal. Maye has taken a handful of ones where he either runs out of bounds a yard short of the original line of scrimmage and takes a sack, or slides out of bounds, essentially gives himself up. And you say, okay, that's managing it. His sack total in terms of yards, last year almost 6.7 yards per sack. This year down to 4.5. So he is doing a better job of making sure that they are not massive losses. But again, starting to compound here a little bit. And Drake Maye told us this week, it's on me, guys. A lot of these sacks that you're seeing that's happening belong to me. When he said that, I could hear Vrabel and Josh McDaniels in his head again. And we've been doing this since back in the spring, where they hammer home to him, whether it's privately or what they tell us publicly, is, dude, in order for us to be good, in order for us to have the kind of season that they're currently having at 7-2, you need to be available. And so there are times here where the wise thing to do is to forget the idea of trying to make a play and just say, you know what? It ain't there. I don't see it the way I want to see it. This guy's not breaking open, and just throw the ball away or just check it down, right? Take the 2-yard completion, whatever it may be. Don't try to extend plays. But of course, as we've discussed this a million times, especially when it comes to younger quarterbacks like a Jaden Daniels, who you see just got hurt again in Washington, or Maye, who's exposed himself to some hits. And we obviously have dealt with a few headshots here over the last year and a half with Maye. They don't know any better just yet. They still think they're invincible. They still think they're running around in college where they're one of the better athletes. And while he's still a great athlete, he's not the equal of some of the guys that are rushing the passer. And this invincibility thing pops up when you see him try to stiff arm. Don't forget the stiff arm of Myles Garrett down by the goal line at like the 10-yard line. Like, that's a no-win situation. Myles Garrett, 275 pounds of steel. Drake Maye, 230-ish pounds of not so much steel. So, like, protect yourself, protect the arm, protect the head. Jalen Walker, he thought about straight arming him. He told us that, stiff arming him. And then as he was doing that, he brought the ball away from himself, and of course he fumbled, and that was a game-altering play against Atlanta and made things that looked like it was going to be one-sided and a rout into a white knuckler, chewing your fingernails type experience. And that's the thing. Maye only has 21 games of experience under his belt. So when we talk about him and wanting him to, as Josh McDaniels talked about, sort of thread this fine line, it's difficult because he's still learning on the job. And I thought McDaniel's quotes from this week were outstanding. I asked the question, and I used the word, how do you fix it? Which probably wasn't the right word. And Josh is like, yeah, I don't know if I'd call it fix, but how do you reduce, minimize, and find that right balance? And he said, I think we're trying to find to thread a fine line, which I said, here, of making those plays off schedule, which everyone loves, including me. He does. Everybody else does. And then doing something when we could hang on to it a little longer than maybe we could, and then incur a negative play or a turnover, which we don't want, obviously. And he continued, so I don't think we want to overcoach that and take that away from him, which we're not doing. I think as a young player, you're going to continue to learn. Hopefully, you'll eventually find that real sweet spot where it's like, you know what? I have a great feeling for this, end quote. And then the decisions that he's making, and this is me talking now, all done within a split second of each other, will improve to the point where, yes, we're still going to worry every time he tries to make an off-schedule play, because we've seen sort of the downside of it, the negative of it. But I think the more experience he gets, the more he figures that thing out, the more these, heart and throat experiences are going to become fewer and far between. And again, the only way to do this is to keep playing, keep learning, keep progressing, and they will. Trust me, they will continue to keep teaching it. All right, the second quarter, it's important to note heading into Sunday's game at Tampa, Todd Bowles isn't the kind of guy who wants to play read and react defense. No way, no how. Todd Bowles can get downright evil on Sundays with how much pressure, how much blitzing, how much disguise that he will do. And the good thing for Drake Maye is that he has McDaniels, who's faced Bowles' defenses a number of times over the years. But again, this will be his first time seeing it. This will be the entire group's first time seeing it together, the offensive line, etc. The Bills have the fourth highest pressure rate in the National Football League, the seventh highest blitz rate. And over the last 3 weeks, we talk about the sack number, 15 sacks. Now, obviously, they had the bye last week, so the previous, easy for me to say, 3 games, they had 15 sacks. And Bowles was in the lab, not only looking at his team during the bye week, but how do we get ready for this game against a team that certainly is surprising everybody with the way they played. He knows the pressure points that he wants to attack, and a lot of them you can see as well. We've talked so much about the right side of the offensive line, the inability to pick up stunts, particularly stunts directed at Mike Onwenu. We saw 2 sacks in the game Sunday against the Falcons, where Drake Maye, that pressure came right over Mike Onwenu when he did not pick up a 2-man game with Morgan Moses. One of them was the aforementioned Walker sack fumble. There's also Garrett Bowles, who's dealing with a lower leg injury. He's been an Iron Man. He missed practice Wednesday, back out of practice on Thursday. He's going to play, but a lower leg injury for a guy who's not the biggest and now is going to be lined up at times across from Vita Vea, who is an enormous human being. But not only is he enormous, he's quick as hell and a very good pass rusher for someone who is listed at 360. I don't know. You look at him, tell me if he's 360 or not. And then, of course, you've got the 2 rookies on the left side. And while I think they've been generally pretty good, Bowles will test them as well. This is, you know what? You haven't seen our defense. You've seen some other stuff, but you haven't seen ours. So he'll test their eyes. And then he's definitely going to mess with the protection of the running backs, particularly with Ramondre Stevenson not practicing again this week, not expected to play because of that toe. So it's going to be the rookie TreVeyon Henderson. It's going to be former practice squatter Terrell Jennings, who scored his first touchdown this past week. Jennings was in for 4 pass plays in Sunday's game against Atlanta, but never put in pass protection in those regards. He was running routes. Henderson has become obviously the blitz pickup guy. And he told me this week, and I wanted to talk to him because I thought it's gotten a little bit better. It's still not exactly what you want it to be. And he said the adjustment from the college game to the pro game is still something that he's dealing with. And he said the thing about the college game was guys just attack you with power. And he goes, and you knew that. So I would attack them as they were attacking me, and we meet somewhere in the middle. You make some good physical contact there, give your quarterback extra time as you jar that defender loose. Now, that's not how it works. These guys will hit you with moves. They're edge rushers playing linebacker. Those linebackers come in, they'll rips and swims and whatever, using their hands in a much greater level than Henderson is used to in college. And so I think we've seen that. There was a belly flop at one point during the Atlanta game in pass pro. There was a bull rush where he got driven back into the feet of Drake Maye, probably 5 yards. I'll give you this, though. Josh McDaniels said that I don't look at blitz pickup necessarily as a win-loss proposition. He said sometimes you lose, you just need to lose slowly. In other words, as he said, Dante Scarnecchia would always talk about this, the old line coach of the Patriots, about just hang on to it long enough so that the quarterback can get rid of the football. And, that's really what it comes down to, right? Give Drake clean enough vision and enough time to set his feet and throw it. And as Garrett Bradbury has talked about, as they've all talked about, as we've all seen with our own eyes, if you give Drake time, generally makes the right play. And his accuracy this year has been off the charts. Last thing we should be looking for from this matchup, how Bowles will bring pressure from depth. And that means the Patriots will set their protection at the line of scrimmage. The ball will get snapped, and all of a sudden there's going to be guys that aren't accounted for. And when you think about That's not the front seven stuff, although there'll be some of that too, where, they send 6 or 7, you have 5 to block. They've got the numbers. Drake's got to realize where that's coming from, get the ball out hot. But Bowles, probably more than anyone in the league, and there are some numbers that back this up, will bring blitzes and pressure from the back 4. So those guys aren't counted for. Occasionally the nickel will be, right, because he's in the box. But we're talking outside corners, we're talking safeties. Those guys will blitz from outside the box, and they won't be accounted for. And between that and the way he spins the dial on his coverages behind that, there, I believe 25% disguised coverage rate, which is number 1 or number 2 in the league. They're going to be sending bodies that you don't necessarily see, and then you're going to have to react to that. But also at the same time, if you're Drake Maye, okay, I thought it was cover 3, but are they in quarters? Are they in man? You've got to figure that out. Again, these are all split-second decisions. Not an easy challenge, but one thus far the quarterback has proven to be able to handle. I think he's 4th in EPA per play against blitzes this season. Before we get to the third quarter, we got to talk about PrizePicks, don't we? Andrew Callan and I, Pat's Interference, we do the show every Monday after games. We're always texting during the course of the weeks. Some of it is crap talking each other. Some of it is what's going on with the Patriots. And some of it is our PrizePicks, where you just pick more or less on 2 players up to 6 to win cash money. Who doesn't like to win cash money? Of course, be careful with your money, but PrizePicks is an awesome place to do this thing. Simple to play. As I mentioned, you just pick more or less on 2 players up to 6. You can cross sports. So, like, obviously, football season is front and center, but basketball, hockey, everything is going on, soccer, and you can cash in because you can cross those sports. PrizePicks also the only app that offers stacks, meaning you can pick the same player up to 3 times in the same lineup. That's what I've been doing. That's what I'm going to continue to do this week. I'm going to give you those picks in just a split second. But what you want to do is download the PrizePicks app today. Use the code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CLNS to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. I've got my picks right here. 6-2 of the last 8 that I've made have gone properly. Here we go. Baker Mayfield, more than a half interception. A lot of turnover-worthy plays from Baker Mayfield, even though he doesn't have a lot of turnovers. I think that changes this week. Drake Maye, I'm telling you about all this pressure rate. They're going to have to lean on him to throw the ball regardless, and I think he's good enough to do it. More than 247.5 yards passing. Drake Maye, more than 30.5 yards rushing. With all the blitzing, with all the pressure, he's going to take off. There's a big run in there somewhere. There's a 20, 25-yard gain somewhere in this contest against the Bucs. And finally, and this is the one I keep losing on recently because he's slowed down. At least he's getting in the end zone, but he's slowed down from a production standpoint. And that is Stefon Diggs, more than 39.5 yards receiving. With no Kayshon Boutte this week, Kyle Williams probably going to get a bigger role, but I think that Stefon Diggs' playing time may increase as well because I'm not sure they totally trust the rookie, even though they're saying the right things and saying that they do. So those are PrizePicks. Again, PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. All right, let's get to the third quarter. Let me find that. There we go. I know where I want to start. It's all up here or right here. No one wants to have this conversation in New England because even I mentioned this earlier in the week with Paul Perillo. This is the next referendum game, right? They had the one against Buffalo. They surprised Buffalo. They win in Buffalo. That's a phenomenal win. You can't take that away from them. But then we look at the overall schedule, the strength of schedule, and you say, it's not that great. So now you get this one against these 6-2 Bucs, and you say, all right, this is the next one. And they're on the road, so that increases the degree of difficulty. I think Tampa Bay's offense isn't very good right now. That may change when they get healthier, but this is a huge key. Right now, they're not healthy, and we'll get into that in just a second. They are 18th currently in offensive DVOA. That surprised me. Now, I've always believed that Baker Mayfield, even when he's rolling, is inconsistent down to down, but we'll get on these heaters. And when he gets on these heaters, and he's done it a lot in fourth quarters of games this year in close games, which has really helped them achieve the 6-2 record, that he's hard to stop because he gets that vibe, he gets that flow. The arm is in the right slot, the ball is accurate. Guys are making plays out of structure as well. Even though he's not the most athletic quarterback, he can run around a little bit, and he will do that and try to do that in this game. But down, the consistency has not been great. I mentioned the turnover-worthy plays. I think that comes into play this week. And then man-to-man, which the Patriots still haven't fully embraced, even though they now have a healthy Christian Gonzalez, who I know he got knocked out of the game last week with the concussion or the head protocol thing. But he's playing this week, or it appears to be, unless there's a misstep as again, we're taping this on Friday at 11:30 in the morning. And Carlton Davis, who has still been pretty good. I know there's been some nitpicking on him, but he's still been pretty good on the other side. And then, of course, Marcus Jones in the slot. But the Patriots haven't fully totally embraced that. And this is sort of kind of how his defenses ran in Tennessee. I thought it would change when he came to New England because he had more man cover guys and the cat coverage, as he joked on the day that they signed and announced Carlton Davis, that Gonzalez and Davis would play cat coverage. You got this cat, I got that cat. But they haven't done as much as I would like to. The Buccaneers, not good in recent weeks against man-to-man coverage. In fact, a 32% success rate for Baker Mayfield when throwing against man. There's only one other quarterback worse than that in the National Football League. Once again, as we mentioned at the top, rookie Cam Ward in Tennessee. He's having a hell of a time, isn't he? Not all of it's his fault. When you lose Mike Evans, he's had Chris Godwin for just 2 games, and it doesn't, as of the recording of this, does not appear that Godwin is going to play again as he recovers from the setback of the nasty leg injury he had last year that cost him the year. Talk about the Patriots and giving him basically a blank check and him deciding to stay in Tampa. That turned out to be a good thing for the Patriots. But so they don't have him. Bucky Irving, again, as of the recording, had not practiced this week, and there was some thought that he would be back. So they lose their best running back, and he's been down for a month now. So I think all these things have sort of added up. Emeka Egbuka dealt with a hamstring, missed a little time, hasn't necessarily been fully himself as well since coming back. So Baker's thrown to some guys that I don't think when they drew this thing up and said, what's the best of the Tampa Bay offense, that this was how it was going to look at the receiver position. But that's the league. That's what happens here. My guess would be that the Patriots, and again, I don't know that they'll stray too far from their percentages of man coverage. They're in the 30-ish range. But that on Gotta Have It money downs, that Gonzalez will get Egbuka. And for as good as Egbuka has been as a rookie this year, he's not someone that runs away from you. So if he's going to make catches on Gonzalez, unless there's a blown coverage, someone falls down, those sorts of things, they're going to have to be tight window throws because I just don't – he's not the kind of athlete that runs away from him. And he's certainly not the 6'5" Drake London who's, mossing dudes in the end zone all last week and has that frame that, for as good as some of the coverage was from Gonzalez, he still lost some of those plays because that guy was 5 inches taller and he's a basketball player the way he jumps. Should be noted, by the way, that the Bucs love to run bunches and trips and combinations out of that. And as we have seen in recent weeks and really going back to the beginning of the season, but started to focus on it more from the Buffalo game, is in the low red, the Patriots have struggled with that in particular because of the rules that they have in place. And Callan and I have talked about this quite a bit, but they tend to, when a guy motions, they tend to just bump it down because they don't want to lose leverage with their corners. So, hey, initially it looks like Gonzalez is lined up on London. London comes in motion. He ends up in the middle of that pack. And the next thing you know, he's one-on-one with Marcus Jones because Jones bumps into one spot. And now Gonzalez has the outside receiver, whoever that may be, Kyle Pitts, Mooney, in this case, whatever, Tez Johnson, whatever the case may be. Everybody sees this. Everybody's going to continue to test it. You have to wonder if the Patriots will tweak their rules or if this is just, we're content to live in this way. Mike Vrabel sort of indicated that maybe that was going to be the case when he said, well, look, man, Marcus has made plays against those balls in the past. Well, Keon Coleman is not Drake London. And again, they don't have that same type of big receiver, but it's just something to continue to watch as we go forward to see if the Patriots tweak that, because teams are attacking that and having success doing it. And lastly, when it comes to Mayfield, he will attack the middle of the field. Now, it would help if he had Chris Godwin, because that's usually the guy that he went to. Cade Otton has seen a lot of targets with all those guys out. Cade Otton is a fine player, not a great player, but Michael Penix wouldn't throw the ball over the middle of the field. There were at least a handful of opportunities for him to do that in that Patriots game last week. He didn't. I'll keep saying it till I'm blue in the face. Patriots are weak in the middle defensively when it comes to the pass. You can attack the linebackers, you can attack the safeties, and generally you're going to have success there. Mayfield will do that much more than Penix did. So we'll see how the Patriots answer that, because, again, the athletic matchup, at least this week, in terms of with Otton up against Spillane, Gibbons, he's a better athlete than Gibbons, but the two safeties in Hawkins and Woodson, that's a fairly even fight for the Patriots. Before we get to the fourth quarter, it's our serious moment. Life insurance isn't something that everybody wants to talk about. Life insurance isn't necessarily something that everybody wants to spend money on. And I was that person a long time ago. And then, as I've said a million times here, you buy a house after you get married, you have kids, and then all of a sudden it's like, how do I make sure that this is all protected? And some of this stuff can be very convoluted. And you enter into these conversations with people and you're like, that doesn't make any sense. Well, you know what does make sense? Ethos, an online platform that makes getting life insurance fast and easy to protect your family's future in minutes, not months. No complicated process, 100% online, no medical exam required. Who does that? They do. You just have to answer a few questions health-wise. Get a quote in as little as 10 minutes, and you can get same-day coverage without leaving your house. Life insurance is more affordable than you think. With Ethos, get a free quote and customize a rate that fits your budget. You want $3 million worth of coverage? Ethos can do that for you. You want to do something that fits your budget more? You can do as little as $2 a day to make sure that you protect the people that you love. Do that. Contact Ethos. Go through the process. 4.8 out of 5 stars on Trustpilot with over 2,500 reviews. Get your free quote at ethos.com/all32. That's right. We have a promo code. Free quote. Ethos.com/all32. That's Ethos, ethos.com/all32. People, just take my word for it. Trust me. Contact Ethos. Great sponsor. Great service. Like I said, everybody who's been involved with them, the reviews are off the charts. So if that's something you're looking for, considering, or hey, I need to, but I don't necessarily have the money to do the big thing, they can let you do whatever financially you feel like is a good thing for you. All right, let's go to the fourth quarter. And this is not necessarily Patriots specific. I wanted to circle back to the trade deadline, and I'm not even going to go over that the Patriots didn't do anything. We talked about that with Perillo. I've talked about that on Early Edition on NBC Sports. I'm sure I'll talk about that when I'm on the radio this afternoon, the afternoon show on WEI. But I did want to talk to you about how quickly things change in this league. A year ago, the Patriots were the worst team in the NFL. And the only reason they didn't end up with the number 1 pick in the draft is because the Buffalo Bills did a better job of tanking that Week 18 game than you did. There's a lot of hand-wringing about that. I mean, if you ended up with the number 1 pick, what kind of haul would you have gotten for it? Because somebody would have come up for Cam Ward, probably the Titans, and maybe you set yourself up for the future. Didn't work out that way. You got out-tanked. You end up with the 4th pick. Will Campbell, been a good player for you, etc. But here we are. What is it? 9 months, 10 months since they fired, 10 months since they fired Drake Maye. The Patriots are 7-2, and 2 of your AFC East rivals, the Dolphins and the Jets, they're in hell. Okay? Miami fired its GM, traded one of its best pass rushers. Mike McDaniel, the head coach, is literally hanging on by a thread. I have no idea if he survives or not, because you bring in a new GM. If you're doing it right, the GM hires his own coach. Everybody's on the same timetable. You want the same kind of players, etc. The way Miami operates, there's no guarantee that's going to happen. There's also Tua, who has had a really bad year, leads the league in interceptions, I believe, unless Geno Smith caught him last night in the Thursday night game. Has been bad at the podium this year, calling out guys, having to apologize, not necessarily taking nearly enough of the blame as the franchise quarterback that you should, whether you believe it or not. That's what you're supposed to do. He's not done that. I have a feeling that he could be gone, especially if they change head coaches. And I know there's a huge cap implication there. Doesn't matter. We've seen it now. Teams will do it. Russell Wilson being the prime example. If you're done with a guy, you're done with a guy. I think Kyler Murray in Arizona, if they can't find a trade partner, he's probably going to get launched straight into the sun too in this offseason. Then there's New York, who took 2 of their 3 cornerstone players on Tuesday at the trade deadline and swapped them out. Sauce Gardner, 25 years old, the number 4 overall pick on, I believe, the 2022 draft. Just signed him this offseason to a massive contract extension, making him, I think at the time, the highest paid cornerback in the National Football League. He still might be, actually. And then Quinnen Williams, who just turned 28, formerly a top 5 pick of theirs, really good football player. Williams wanted out, told him he wanted out, especially after he asked for a contract extension, and they said no. And yet that said, he was still playing at a good level and still leading that football team. So it says a lot about that guy as a professional. And you can understand why a lot of players in the Jets were like, that's our leader, and he's gone. But those 2 guys are gone. 3 first-round picks over the next 2 years that they acquired. 2 for Sauce, 1 for Williams. Williams' first-rounder is not this year, but next. They also get the second-rounder from the Cowboys this year. Got a couple players as well. A.D. Mitchell, the receiver from Texas, who's explosive, but there's off-field stuff there. I don't know that he's a bad guy. He just he's one of those receivers. And obviously you remember him dropping the ball early this year as he was going into the end zone, helped cost him that Rams game. Hasn't really played much since then. So they're taking a flyer on that player, really talented. We'll see if it fits in New York. That's not easy. But now those teams are both in rebuilding mode. They both need quarterbacks, or they're going to be, because I just don't think the Tua thing is salvageable. You especially need that in the division when you're competing with Josh Allen, who is now the gold standard. But obviously now the Drake emergence and being a legit MVP candidate, you've got to compete with that as well. And a program in New England that is being run very well in year 1 of Mike Vrabel. So if you look at the quarterback draft for the year ahead, which both teams would be interested in, because both have multiple first rounders, it's not the 2024 draft where 6 guys got picked in the first 12, and we can argue how good those 6 are. But a couple of them certainly are good. No one is truly elevated from this class. In fact, a lot of guys have fallen off. Mendoza from Indiana, Moore from Oregon, they've been the 2 best guys this year. And I don't know that there's anyone that I've talked to who spends a lot of time scouting college football that thinks those guys are franchise-altering quarterbacks. So we're going to be in another situation where teams are going to pick a quarterback higher than they belong, because that's the most important position. But those same teams 2 or 3 years down the line, just look at the Jets with Zach Wilson, 5-6 years ago, find themselves back in the market again for a quarterback. So that is a long way of saying that the Pats are set up to be in competition with the Bills for at least the next several years, assuming health, obviously, especially to the quarterback, and making smart adds in this offseason, both via free agency and the draft. And it's just a reminder, what a difference a year makes, when I think pretty much everybody hated everything about what the New England Patriots were doing. And now we were actually arguing, and in some quarters arguing very strenuously, that they should have added at the trade deadline, because what better time than to strike now? You're 7-2 and you don't know when you'll be there again. I mean, Miami just a couple years ago, number 1 offense in the league. And I think they were the number 1 seed for a little while, like midway through the season. And then the thing is completely fallen off. A reminder before we get out of here, those listening to the show, we ask you to subscribe to the podcast, like and leave a review. For those watching the show on CLNS, hit the like button, subscribe to the Patriots Press Pass YouTube channel, where you can find this show. We love this show, but you can find all the other great Patriots content. Taylor and Mike Kadlick doing their thing like 9 times a week. They're crazy. Callahan, even though he's about to take a little brief sabbatical, the whole thing, if you've been paying attention to what's going on there with Andrew. Although I think we're still doing the Pats Interference Monday podcast, even if Callahan is not going to be here for a week or 2. That's my understanding, at least. I could be wrong, but that's what I understand. You got Barth, everybody. So you definitely want to do that. Doug Kyde now, he and Mike Hurley, their podcast, also part of the CLNS crew. It's just great stuff. Please make sure to turn on your notifications so you know the minute this show drops. I got to thank my guy Harrison, who has become the de facto producer of this program. Harrison, always here with him. Appreciate him. Love him. Love you guys. Again, don't be afraid to give us a nice 5-star review. We love the reviews. And don't forget to get involved in some of the comments, because I do like to go in there and go back and forth. And maybe one of these days we'll get a nice little mailbag out of the whole process. That's going to do it for Friday. Enjoy the weekend. I think the Patriots are going to win. And we will see you on Monday, I think. All right. Good talk. See ya.